Thanks for showing up today. Ask the Experts is our series of monthly workshops aimed at educating people on cultural workplace topics. Thanks to the generous sponsorship of STCU, we can offer this event for free. And so we have our STCU reps in the room today, and I'm going to invite Sarah to come up and say a few words.
So, we're working with and I just want to say thank you for coming. I'm so thrilled because this is our 4th year of supporting Ask the Experts, and it's going to be a great year. But I want to share this with you. One of our core values, I think it really resonates with the topic today. It's belonging, and of course I forgot my glasses. Through collaboration, we build relationships and partnerships. We value differences, encourage all voices, and listen with intentionality. We connect. And the whole idea is, obviously, I believe in multi-generational workplaces. And I think we have so much to learn from each other. And I'm thrilled today to listen to you and see what else we do there.
Thanks, Sarah, and thank you to STCU. We are going to have great time of audience participation during the event. However, if you have a question, go ahead and write it down. And after they do their presentations, we will do a Q&A from both our Zoom attendees as well as our in-person. So let me introduce to you, Carly Rooney is the store manager from the Kennewick Walmart, and Elizabeth Barnes is the chief of staff at Christensen, Inc. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. And we did have a third participant, Jan Peterson, who is a district manager for Starbucks in our region, is unable to participate today. Unfortunately, she's out sick, and we wish her a speedy recovery. So with that, I'll let you guys take it away. Thank you so much.
Well, my name is Carly Rooney. I am the store manager at the Kennewick Walmart. I've been with Walmart for about 20 years. I've been a store manager for 7. I've managed between 350 to 450 associates at any given time, with various levels of management in there. And this is a really important topic to me. I'm glad I was asked to speak on this, just because retaining top talent is important to all of us.
My name is Elizabeth Barnes, and I am the chief of staff at Christensen, Inc. If you're wondering what is that, think of it like strategy and development and lots of just really cool stuff. I get to do all the really fun, cool stuff, including talent development. So if it's out there and it sounds cool, but nobody else gets it, nobody has time to do it, guess who gets to do it? That's me. So it's a lot of fun. I've been in leadership for over 15 years. I started out in elementary education. I was an elementary school principal internationally for 15 years, and then moved back here to the Tri-Cities in 2019, was the executive director for an education nonprofit, and then moved to Christensen because we love nonprofits, but there's no money and they need to buy a house. So get to your 40s, like, I love it, but I need to buy a house. So I've been with Christensen for a little over 3 years, and I absolutely love it. And one of the things that I have gotten to do in the past as well at Christensen is talent development. I'm creating mentorship programs, coaching, professional development, internal, and then finding external professional development programs as well. So it's something I'm very passionate about, and all that. The thing that I love most is about the collaboration, just as Sarah said, right? It's all about that, creating those dynamic teams and building a super incredible talent pool. So with that, let's have some fun. So we're going to start off with, you ready? Oh, it's me. It's a clicker. Just kidding. First, we're going to have a disclaimer, just so way nobody gets upset with us when we accidentally call you a boomer, a millennial, or a Gen X, or a Gen Z. All right. So this is my disclaimer. We're all in this together. There's no hard feelings. This doesn't apply to everyone. Just, take it with a grain of salt. And it's all, just remember the differences is what makes us unique and special. All right. That's my disclaimer. This is us. All right. Before we start, I do want to say that we are going to be doing some peer engagement, because obviously we're not the only experts in the room, and we want you guys to interact and engage with each other. And I brought prizes and I will be passing them out. Can you tell you to be in education? So you will need to ensure that you have someone that you can turn and talk to. So it could be groups of 3 or 3. I think everybody else has 2 that you can speak to. If you want to mix it up and go speak with someone from a different generation, then you can look around and be like, that might be fun. All right. Or if you're comfortable where you are, you can stay where you are. Everybody feel good? Everybody, Tammy, you good over there? I brought a couple of my favorite people here. So thank you for those that are here to support me today. I appreciate it. All right, Carly, why are we talking about this? Why is this important?
All right. So as far as business leaders today, we've got more generations working than ever before. longevity is impacting the organizations and the workforce. And so being able to bridge the gap between our boomers, disclaimer, and our Gen Ys, is really important. Being able to create an environment where everyone's able to thrive and support each other, is why this topic matters.
Okay, and with that, we're gonna play a Kahoot. This is to see how much you already know about the different generations. So get out your cell phone. They never ask you that in presentations. Get out your cell phone, please. Scan the QR code. Right, and we're gonna play. And if you pick up, if you're in the top 3, you get a prize. All right, Josh, Lori, already there. Thank you.
Name.
Well, you can put in whatever you want. And did you put in a different name?
Nope.
Okay.
I did, and. Dang it.
We have 25 participants. Anybody left? Anybody still waiting?
Few more popping in. 30.
Nice, Brian. Nice. Okay, we're gonna start. 5, 4, 31, all right. Anybody left?
When should I
All
start?
right, go ahead and get started. Here we go. Okay. Let's do it. First question is, let's pull. What generation do you fall into? So go ahead and just so we can kind of get a feel for who's actually here. Are you a boomer, a Gen X, a millennial, a Gen Z? I'm a Gen X millennial. I'm on the cusp. I've heard this so many times. I don't belong to either, or I don't identify with any generation. I'm my own unique snowflake.
That's me.
All right, got 31 answers.
Yeah.
All right, so we mostly have millennials in the room. We have 14 millennials. We have 12 Gen Xers. All right, so mostly that. All right, what's the largest generation? Today, who is it? Baby boomers, millennials, Gen Xers, or Gen Zs? Probably tell by the poll that we just took. Oh.
Come on, Ann.
You are correct. It is millennials. The largest population in the workforce now is millennials. All those entitled lazy kids that we were all complaining about, we're now dominating in the workforce. What is Gen Z most likely to say about workplace communication? Does that mean a calendar invite? Let's schedule a phone call. Can we do this over text? Let's have a face-to-face meeting. What are those 20-somethings, those early 20-somethings saying?
I went the wrong direction.
Oh, that's right. It is. Can we do this over text, please? Very informally over text. All right, so far we have Mel coming in at first place, followed by Rick and Double G.
Yo.
Which one did they popularize? Which one did they popularize? Open office space, casual dress codes, virtual meetings, or 9-to-5 schedules? What's the most popular? I mean, all of those. Well, 2 of those, 3 of those we popularized, but one specifically. Anne's representing it very well today. Oh, yeah.
So close.
So even more the millennials, everyone went to work in suit and ties, and now. So true. All right, Rick, how does Gen X typically prefer to receive workplace feedback? Frequent coaching and check-ins, instant feedback via text or Slack, annual performance reviews, or no news is good news. No news is good news. I hear that. That's all good. Oh. I checked. All right, true or false? Who believes that job loyalty means staying with one company for most of their career? True or false? If you live in our area and you know old Hanford workers, you can probably answer this question. Yes, well done. True. All right. Last but not least, a poll. Which workplace struggle feels most relatable to you? Decoding an email with no emojis or touch from a boomer. Agency employer who never answers the phone. Surviving a meeting that could have been an email, or figuring out if Gen X is sarcastic or just serious. Surviving meetings that could have been an email. All right, that's because it's mostly millennials. Thank you so much. Well done. Oh wait, shoot, no, who were my top three?
Uh-oh.
I was fourth, I know that. I think I saw Rick in there, Irish. Rick was first, Irish was second.
Correct.
I'm right. I think I was the second though.
All right, we have kid and adult.
Kid and adult.
Kid and adult. It's kid or adult.
I know. You get a quiz every time.
Makes it a lot more interactive. I like that.
No.
Instead of just coming down.
Okay. Workplace challenges. Here's a whole bunch of different common workplace challenges. We're just going to touch on a couple of them at the moment, and then you guys are going to chat about them as well. So the first one we're going to talk about is communication styles. We kind of referenced a lot of that during the Kahoot. Right? Gen Xers and Zoomers really prefer the structured meetings, that direct feedback, emails, formal, professional, right? That's what they want. That's what they've experienced, and that's what they want. Well, millennials and Gen Z want that quick, informal, direct communication. How many of you, as millennials in the room, would prefer to just send a text message or a Slack to a colleague just to answer a quick question instead of writing a long formal email, right? Yeah, exactly. How many of our older generation of our Gen X's or boomers would prefer to have a formal email or face-to-face meeting?
Maybe someone who doesn't know what Slack is.
Exactly. Thank you. And we talk a little bit about performance reviews, right? The no news is good news. That's that Gen Xer, right? If I don't hear anything bad is happening, then everything is good. Or you have the boomers who want their annual performance review. Why are you giving me feedback? It's not our annual performance review yet. I get it once a year. That's it. One and done. And then you have your millennials and Gen Zs, your millennials who want that regular feedback, meet on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, get that feedback from their boss. How am I doing? How am I performing on my quarterly metrics? Am I being successful? Do you like me? Please like me. All right. And then you have your Gen Zs who just want that constant feedback. Did I get a smiley face today? Did I get a smiley face today? Right. They're used to that constant feedback. And so wanting to continue to have that constant feedback. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have you turn to your peer partner or your little group of three, and you're going to chat. How many of you have ever had a miscommunication at work because of how a message was delivered? And what was the root of the problem? So how about a time where you had a miscommunication at work? What was the problem?
I can't think of an example right now. Miscommunication at work. Can you think of it?
Yeah, I work in research development for the University of Wisconsin, so a lot of times we are programs to help us with donations. So there's a lot of times where there's a great idea that come in and they want to volunteer, they want to develop. I communicate with the program and everybody why are you taking over my program? You don't have to or what is the benefit of having it, right? So it's a lot of recognizing that they are doing important work. I'm not trying to take to come in and learn about our mission. Yeah. So Yes, I understand that it is not, that it is taking you out of to bring in outside perspective. But no one's coming in here to tell you how to do your job. Right?
Do you ever get the, well, that's not, that's not what I thought, that's not what I'm tired of doing.
Yes, I think, and we've got to have both sides. I've had it, outside people coming in saying, like, no, we only said we were gonna do this. It's like, well, that's not.
Yeah.
I just need to have 200 bats for our kids.
If they're not face to face, that's when it's, that's, sometimes it just seems face to face.
First, you know.
Thank you.
Well, we didn't really have like a misunderstanding in the workplace, but kind of maybe a misunderstanding of, expectations. So in a restaurant, we would say cut from that old clock work mentality where they get their schedule, they like their schedule, they don't want to be disturbed outside of their schedule. Where in like the new way, it's kind of like, oh, you know, John called in, we need you ASAP, but there was this lack of understanding of expectations in the new workplace as opposed to not performing well in the workplace. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Who else? Brian?
So I think it's just miscommunication on text message with somebody that you don't have like a personal relationship with yet. And so they don't know your parent. And so when you say something across text, it could come across as harsh or like,
That's what emotions
when really you're being playful.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
There are so many emotions.
I know, I put a smile a lot.
Ours is also very similar, Ryan's, as far as like texting or emailing and just misinterpreting the email rather than maybe just hopping on a phone call with your explanation, because some people assume the worst or the best in an email when it's really just straightforward.
The same thing with text messages, exactly.
Yeah.
The communication sounds lacking.
What generation are you in?
It's not always on silent.
Who was it that rings? You answer it for that.
I hear that.
All right, Carly, over to you.
All right, so the next point we wanted to touch on is stereotypes and misconceptions. You know, reaching back to that disclaimer, we're going to touch on some of the stereotypes that are just kind of out there, and why it's important to be able to see past them. Boomers aren't resistant to change. They value proven methods. So we have a tendency to assume that because it always worked for them, that's they're digging in their heels and refusing to change, which isn't true. Gen X isn't disengaged. They're independent and efficient. Millennials aren't entitled. They want impact and meaning. Gen Z isn't lazy. They prioritize efficiency and digital tools. So some of the stereotypes that are out there that we tend to use in the circles when we talk really prevent us from being able to engage with the team in the right way. So it's really important that we kind of self-check a little bit when we're thinking about those stereotypes and how we're building a team and the way certain employees are engaging with the business. Is it something that we're doing to them by not bringing them along with us, or is it actually that stereotype creating a roadblock? So the audience question, share a time where you have allowed a stereotype to impact your interaction, and what did you learn from it? Anyone want to jump in?
Do you want them to peer partner or just?
That's up to you.
It's up to you.
You guys can discuss amongst each other.
Yeah, again, I'm having a hard time.
Yep, sorry about that. Share a time where you allowed a stereotype to impact your interactions, and what did you learn from it?
I guess I could have an example today. We have two interns, college interns, so like. And I was doing some training with them, and I kind of made some assumptions with them that they're just gonna know after one restroom. Even though I offered like, I offered a couple times, not, I didn't want to be overly.
Yeah.
So, but I went into my meeting with them with the assumption like, they're gonna know it after. Right. So, maybe I made the wrong assumptions, maybe I didn't, we'll find out in the future. Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely have my, I've been called out. Yeah, I'm aware of that, but like, okay, I'm never gonna do that. I don't know the conversation. Yeah, someone is older than me, you know, need to go like. That's not fair, it's like a lot of them don't do that, and so it's very much like an anxiety. Okay, it's fine, we made great conversation. So it's,
Yeah.
but I tend to do that where like I work myself up to when I put my conversation. When you hang out, it's really like,
Yeah.
why would they? Because
I know. I think that's the thing, in like, general, sometimes labels cause more harm than good, like honestly. I always need reminders of what generation I am because I don't pay attention to what. That's great. I just know it's like young and old. Yeah. I used to feel young and now I feel old.
Are y'all wanna come back together now? All right, y'all ready to share together? One more practice.
I know.
Yeah, ready. All right, who wants to share?
I'll share. This morning, I was actually had a good example. I had a meeting with two interns at our company and they're both in their early 20s and I was showing them something new and I went into the meeting thinking that they're young, their brains are gonna just absorb everything I say. So I didn't give them much opportunity to ask questions. And so I'll find out how my training session went with them in the future, but that's an example of me stereotyping them in their generation. Like they're not gonna have questions, they're gonna get it the first time.
Anyone else? Brian, it is?
Yes. So for me, I come from a long, like 12 years of business to business sales. And so in every sales meeting, when I go in, I automatically, whether I like to or not, I have preconceived notions of stereotypes. And so depending on when I walk into a meeting, if I'm talking with somebody who's like 55 to 65 versus who I'm talking to somebody who's like that 30 to 40 or somebody who's like 20 to 30. And I have to tailor my sales pitch according to what I think they're going to be, what's going to resonate the most and what they'll find most valuable. And so typically those stereotypes, like if I'm talking to somebody old, I'm going to go off statistics and a long history of, how the product helps versus a new person. I'll be like, hey, ever changing environment, we adapt, we do these things. So I think that's just something that, it's helpful, but you got to read the room and then you have those stereotypes that generally fit pretty well. I have had it backfire.
Yeah. Anyone else want to go?
We were just saying like phone use generally, some of it, it's like part of the job now and expected, but in the old school mentality or, it's kind of like, leave your phone in your car, check it in a locker and it's not
Put it on silent.
accepted, put it on silent. There is some, that's just a hard thing to navigate. We were in a restaurant and it's like, we don't want your phones because you're distracting from taking customer orders. But now when you're in a public position and you're doing sales, you kind of want to know all the things that are on your phone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and phones have really become a way of life, so it's a hard one. With the stereotypes and misconceptions, it's really important that we just self-check ourselves on a regular basis. We all have that natural tendency, right? You walk in a room, you make assumptions. It's what we do as people. It's part of our fight or flight, keeps us safe, but can also create some really big problems. So it's just about awareness. Not every generation checks every stereotype, right? There's blurs across those lines, and I've got tendencies on every one of those lists. Depending on the situation. So really getting to know the people that you're employing, the team that you're trying to build, is really important.
Yeah, let's talk about retention and engagement. Right, so understanding what drives each of your team members, each one of your employees for their retention and their engagement. What is keeping them there? What is going to motivate them to stay? Generally, the boomers and the Gen Xers, right? It's about that stability, the benefits, and the respect that they're getting from the job. But the millennials and the Gen Z is about growth, about flexibility, and about work culture. So those are like the different things that are driving the different generations. So, boomers and Gen Xers view loyalty as staying with a company for 1 decade, for several decades, right? They're building in, they're entrenched, they have that respect, that they feel that they're valued and they're part of that company. And they have ownership of that company. And then millennials and Gen Zs they view loyalty as staying where they feel valued and have growth opportunities. In my own experience, I had started a new job and I was looking to grow within this job. I was in my early 30s. I was very excited about what I was doing and I was looking to grow. And I went to the manager of this company I was working for and I asked, how can I grow? I want this experience. He said, you be here for 5 years. He was in his late 60s sometimes, like, you be here for 5 years and then we could talk about a promotion. I was like, I'm sorry, this isn't gonna work for me. 5 years? No, like maybe 5 months we can talk about it. But like, I need to grow. Let's do it. I'm hungry, right? I'm hungry for it. And he's like, I'll talk to you in 5 years. I was like, I'm out. I finished in 1 year and then I moved on because it obviously wasn't working for me. That did not resonate with me at all, but that was what he was experiencing. He was definitely he was a boomer. And so that was what he understood. So let's talk about, I want you to turn to your peer partner and I want you to ask, if salary wasn't a factor at all, what's the number one thing that would make you stay in a company? And then what does that say about your generation or about your age? What does that say? So what is the number one thing, if salary was not a factor, would make you stay? And then what does that say about your generation and your beliefs?
Interesting. Well, I work for nonprofit, salary really doesn't matter. It's like salary doesn't matter in which way.
I'm millennial.
I am a Gen X or an elder millennial, depending on who you ask.
Yes, sure. We all know, I'm technically an elder. I'm 83.
I'm 80. And so there's like some, it's funny because if salary were an issue, like I would probably say because that might have this underlying struggle.
Yes.
Like that's what I've always wanted.
Yes.
Thanks. For sure. That has to be also like in line with my beliefs, my core values.
I think for me, I get where the company impacted the community, like what are we doing for the community?
Yeah.
It feels good about you. It's focused on generations of the future. That I think so that's why I'm in line with that. That's something that I definitely I'm focused on. Yeah, I want to make sure that I can have a great grow up and experience life and have jobs. So if it wasn't, yeah, I would definitely feel like I would want to work for a corporation that is trying to help.
That is similarly because when I was working at the credit union, I enjoyed working at credit unions because they impact the community. And then when I needed to move on from that role, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere else with another credit union. I just that was like, it was my parameter. I had to stay within a credit union because I like how they impact. But I also like how they impact in various people. Yeah, like I feel like I have lots of influence. So when you work for a company that gives you all of that, yeah, kind of send that.
Let's hear from somebody we haven't heard from yet. There's quite a few people we haven't heard from yet.
So we discussed culture and how like the positive influences of good culture can keep somebody a lot longer than even salary for most people, for some people. In my case, it would be
So salary.
the environment over salary sometimes.
Well, yeah,
He gives a treat.
I am.
We have some commonalities in terms of like value-based positions. And, you know, one of the things that we were talking about is that you will allow for a lot less money if you're living and working your values. And I don't know that that's necessarily generational, But it's, I find, and we found that that's really important, you know, that if I would much rather take a little bit lower salary and be gratified in my position every day than make a little bit more money and be miserable. Because I've been there and it sucks.
Go ahead, Anne.
The freedom of time to create your own schedule and the vacation time, all the time, being in charge of your own time.
Ultimate flexibility.
Ultimate.
How's that come up? Like,
Shush.
excellent, thank you. All right, Carly?
All right, so the next talking point we want to touch base on, work ethic and attitude toward work. I'm in a lot of, conversation about employees and employers and, the struggle to get people up to speed. We look at generations, and we kind of judge on the way they work now versus the way they used to work. We hear a lot about that. Attendance, how you get people to come to work. And so we wanted to kind of touch on this because when I'm in circles having conversations, that comes up a lot. How do we get people to work like they used to, right? And how do we get them to come to work? And it may be that we need to kind of adapt to what the changing generations are looking for, right? Flexible work schedule. Are we hiring people and being honest and upfront with what we're expecting from them so that they know what we need when they walk in the door? Are we just hiring to fill a position and we're not really being transparent about what we expect as we come through and then we're getting the results of that? So audience question, do you think a strong work ethic means long hours or is efficiency just as valuable? Right, there's a lot of changing in demand on what data or technology is doing for us. And so a lot of that manual labor is being done in a different way. So is it more important to log the hours or just get the work done that needs done?
It depends on the generation.
I'll just say, like, for myself, I try to find a place that values what I can get done more than the amount of time I'm there, because I can hyper focus on something. I can get 2 weeks worth of work done in a record amount of time. But then if you tell me, well, you have to sit in this room for 8 hours, then it's just, maybe I'll get 2 hours worth of work done. Like, I'd rather just sit down, execute, and then move on to something else. And so I tend not to choose a place that has too much time to stew about what to do.
Well, and depending on the environment your business operates in, that's an important aspect for a lot of the generations now. That flexibility in time, being able to work where and how and from where they want to. So making sure that you guys are doing hiring the right way for your business, for what you're looking for, and really respecting that difference.
The last one we want to touch on here is leadership and management style. So thinking about the good old days, the way that work used to be done, right? We talk about like the hierarchy and the structured leadership where you have the boss man at the top and there's so much power distance, right? You don't get to have those face-to-face relationships with your boss. You have serious power distance between them. And that's when we think about the good old days of working, that is, in my head, it's always like a white man in a suit. It really is that, like, that space between us, and you have that almost that fear, like it's almost like a father figure, right? It's that dad, please don't be mad at me, angry, big God figure at the top. And then you're the little worker bees at the bottom, and just doing what you need to do and hope you're getting your I'm thinking about National Lampoon. Hope you get your check. Yeah, hope you get your check. You don't know because you never have that relationship with your boss, but instead you get jammed. Right? And then so that's the boomer view of leadership. That's the perspective. And there are benefits of it, right? Like you don't have that burden on you because you know everything that's happening in the company, right? You don't have, like, there are benefits to it. But then you have that is the way business used to work. And it worked for a long time, right? But now we have a new generation, we have new generations coming in. We have the millennials who want to know what's happening. They want to be able to have a relationship with their boss. They want to be able to connect on a personal level, not just on a professional level. You want to be able to go to your boss and tell them that you're having terrible cramps today and you just need to lie down and have a hot pack. And like, that's the kind of relationship that millennials and Gen Zs want to have with their boss. And so that can be very difficult if you're a boomer boss and you're like, whoa, like, we don't talk about women problems here. Hold that over there, right? Like there's a big range of leadership here. And so last question before we move on to the next section, turn to your peer partner and talk about what kind of leadership style do you like? And what are the benefits, but also what are the drawbacks about the kind of leadership style that you like? All right, turn to your peer partner.
Okay. Obviously, we are working heavily on our like department and just making sure that our leadership is accessible to our organization, no matter what.
Do you, like, who's your leadership above you?
So, Mrs. Laughlin, who is our chief development officer, my leader, and then Brian is our CEO.
Okay.
Our leadership team is 5 businesses. But everyone in our leadership team is very which I appreciate, but I also feel like as of that, see there is out there on these like on that where it's kind of like I'm gonna go my thing. Everybody's kind of coming in, and I think I'd rather they're currently doing this. I would rather instead of them just always being in the office so that they are and going to rather than just like it's like I think it really works because none of us I mean we have 200 employees just got everybody to go through yesterday so that could be like the one time that go and meet them where they're at. Yeah. So with their leadership doing that, but I really I think it's important for us because we have maybe, yeah, a little bit.
And I don't know, I'm not trying to judge anybody with that comment. That's we have like we're kind of papers throughout Eastern Washington, Idaho, and students like and not one leader can go to all of them, but all leaders can blanket. And that's what I see happening. But in terms of like what my direct leader and our transparency, I appreciate your transparency. 100%.
All right.
It applies to us.
Share. I have one fireball left. So share. What kind of leadership style do you prefer, and what are some of the drawbacks to it? Who wants to share? Somebody we haven't heard from yet.
Oh,
Well, all right.
so, I think more of a democratic structure with a clear hierarchy, but it allows for leadership to have upward feedback. And then, of course, I think everybody in the circle feels like at least they contribute. The downside is everybody gets to contribute. And there's just some people that are just too dumb for their ideas. So, that's the plus and minus.
Stupid ideas. Stormy.
I promise there are.
Oh, and it's gone.
Well, I guess we like more of the collaboration versus the hierarchy, where we're also tiny. So it helps to have, the close feedback and connection on all these different levels. So
what are some of the drawbacks?
The drawbacks, somebody's got to make the decision. And it might not be the majority rule.
Well enough together that we're good about brainstorming and making a decision together too, so.
75% of our team is right
here.
95% of our team.
Honestly.
All right, one more. And we move on to our next section. Oh. We haven't heard from yet. Jose, we haven't heard from you yet?
Making the eye contact.
Background right there.
That's what did it.
But you sat close.
I did, left to right, left to right. For me, I like the leadership where I guess we want the democratic side. Internally, we do have our little small committee, but it's hard trying to get everybody on board to go in the right direction. It's not enough paddlers, so to say, so that's the way I look at it.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who participated. Let's talk about some innovative hiring practices across generations. You can do this, Andy.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so it's all well and good, right, to talk about finding the right people for the job, but how do we make sure that we can actually like attract them? And then once we do, how do we keep them, right? So how do we say, look at us, we're so shiny and special, come and work for us? And so what are some innovative hiring practices that you can do to ensure that you're hiring across the generations, not just targeting one specific, right? Not just targeting like you, because we all hire people just like ourselves, because we love ourselves and we understand ourselves. And it's our number one trait as hiring managers that we hire people just like us with our same flaws, our same faults. Next thing you know, you have a team who's all great at the same thing you're great at and all suck at the same thing you suck at. So it's really important that we have these dynamic, diverse, intergenerational teams. So how do we do that? Right. So one of the ways that our company does, Christensen does it, is that we ensure that we have a more inclusive job description. So when we're talking about skills that we're highlighting skills that are multi-generational, right? We're not just targeting skills that are just technology, right? We're ensuring that we're talking about skills that are universal no matter what age demographic you fall into, right? We want people who are collaborative, right? We want these leadership skills. We're ensuring that we have broad skills that we're listing in here. And then we also understand that skills can be technology, right? Oftentimes, one of the key factors of not hiring someone is they don't understand the program, right? We're like, well, they aren't skilled with this one specific program. That can be taught. And that's not a factor not to hire someone. They set every other aspect of the job and they're a little bit older or a little bit younger, and they've never been exposed to this program. Those are skills that can be taught. You were taught them. They can be taught. Another important thing to do is have a multi-generational interview panel. I don't know how many times I've sat in an interview panel and everyone looks exactly like me. It's all women of about 40. And we're all sitting here going like this. Oh my God, we love you. It's so great, right? And that is not representative of the entire demographic of our company, right? Like our company is owned by 5 men, right? It's definitely not representative of the company. So we need to ensure that we have a multi-generational panel of all ages and all demographics that are represented there. So you're really representing the company. Another big thing here that we want to talk about is benefit packages. If you are in charge of your benefit packages, ensuring that for those of you who have benefits, sorry. Sorry about that. But if you do have benefit packages, ensure that you have multiple options, that it's not just a one package fits all benefit package, that you have the option to have a higher or lower premium for people who are younger and might not have a lot of health issues and want to pay a higher premium because it's okay, right? Like I'm not gonna go to the doctor a lot, so I'm gonna pay more out of pocket every time I go, and that's fine. So I'm only gonna go twice this year or once because I just need go to the dentist once, the doctor once, and I'm good. So I'm gonna pay out of pocket. And then you have my dad who is 70 and he's gonna go to the doctor every single week. And so he needs to pay a lot less out of pocket. And so that's fine. And to ensure that you have a variety of those benefit packages available. One of the big things of not just innovative hiring practices, but also about retention is how do we keep people, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But one of the key things is mentorship programs to be able to offer. Hannah, who's my colleague over here, she and I were just interviewing a young woman to replace her because she just got promoted. So to replace her, And one of the things that this young woman really asked for was, well, how can I grow in this company? And so being able to share how we will grow the next generation. We have these young, hungry people coming in that want to grow, they want to learn. And so being able to say, this is the way we're going to grow you. We have mentorship programs, we have development programs, we have leadership programs. Here's how we're going to grow you. And in the next 2 years, you're probably going to get promoted, just like Hannah. And so being able to be like, we are excited for your growth and we want to support that. Another awesome thing, Carla's going to talk about how Walmart.
At Walmart, we have a lot of benefits available too, and we look at benefits in more than just medical, right? Benefits are PTO, paid time off for us, education, right? We've got free education to try and entice the best talent. So a flexible work schedule, we do require the hours. You can't operate a store if you're not there, but the flexibility of scheduling is important. And so when we look at hiring, we're really pitching those benefits that we've got to our new hire. We really have a lot of turnover in comparison with some companies. So trying to reduce turnover really comes down to the good hire from the beginning. And the benefits on our side are more than just insurance. It's going to be really pushing that education. If I've got someone who's coming out of high school, maybe can't afford college, we have a huge degree program, right, that they can take advantage of. Or I may have someone coming back out of retirement. And so the benefits to them are flexibility in scheduling and time off when they need it, because maybe they have some medical challenges that they're dealing with. And then those medical benefits do come into play. But really being able to meet that employee where they need it will help get the best talent and retain them longer.
One of the things that we're seeing within the business world at the moment is return to office, right? This is a big push, not just from the government, but across all workplaces, right? Amazon had the return to work a year ago. Facebook is having it as well. So it's coming. It's big corps are requiring people to come back to the workplace. Our company is as well. And we implemented it full-time at 5 days a week about 6 months ago. But one of the things that we kept, because we do understand that we're human, and we all have sick kids, and I need my furnace filter replaced. Like, real life happens outside of the office. And so even though we do have brought everybody back into the office, we do have work from home, flexible work hours where a certain amount per employee for the year, where you are like, you're going to take a work from home day. Totally fine. And you can do that. And it's built into our Paycom, and you take your time and you work from home. And that's completely understandable, because one of the things that we have loved about the pandemic is that we no longer have to take days off when it's a snow day, or our kid is sick, or I have a cough and I don't want to get my colleagues sick, but I also can work. And so it's a great thing that we no longer have to take all this PTO, but now we're bringing everybody home, but everybody back to the office. So we're trying to find a way to balance that. And that's one of the things that we're able to offer as one of our innovative hiring practices, by saying, yes, you do have to be in the office 5 days a week, but if your dog is really sick and you need to take it to the vet, you can still work, and that's okay, because we still value and trust you to do what you need to get done. All right, Carly.
All right, so now we're going to move into multi-generational teams and helping support them once they're hired. So you've brought on this great employee, you have big dreams for them. How do you keep them engaged? How do you develop them to stay with your business so that you don't have turnover costs and you build the talent pool within your business? Understanding individual motivators is important. Not every business out there has a huge promotion opportunity, right? You may have slower levels to be able to promote through. You may be a small business where you're the boss and you have 4 employees, and so there is not really a line of promotion. So how do you keep those employees engaged in your business and really understanding what their needs are while they're with you? Foster meaningful relationships. Getting to know them is a great way to start. I have 400 associates about right now. I know each one by name, right? So how do you connect and really build those relationships? Not every employee that works for me is going to follow a career progression path. Some just really want to be known and recognized for the contributions they make. So how do you make those personal connections with your teams? How do you balance that with the ones that do want to promote? I've got about 40 promotional positions in my store, which we, transition people through. How do we build a talent pool and an interest with the rest of the team? So we never have a gap or an opening, and so they see that career progression is possible. Adapting communication and leadership styles is a big one. My team ranges from 16 to 78. So how do I transition the communication for each one of those generations that are working for me? I text, I email, we Zoom, we do in person, and it's kind of a balance when you've got those teams, bringing them all together. One important thing that we do is two-way mentorship. So I have a younger leader who's promoted. He wants to take that career progression. And then I have a boomer, right, who wants to finish out until retirement. And both of them have different qualities that make them capable. So I team them together, right? And so now I've got my tech savvy leader who doesn't necessarily have the work ethic of my boomer, coordinating on projects and making the whole store better for it. Leveraging strength-based collaboration, being able to just recognize that different generations bring different talents that can help support your business and move it forward. Sorry. And then creating a culture of learning. How do you keep people engaged? How do you keep them interested in your business?
Sure, no problem.
Brain fart.
You're totally fine. One of the ways that Christensen does this is that my boss is a bit of a guru, just gonna throw this out there. He's a bit of a guru, lovely, but a bit of a guru, and he loves his different personality assessments. One of the ones that he really loves is the Enneagram, all right? Another one is the 6 types of working genius, all right? And these really help you understand on a level, who you are and where you fall into. So if we're thinking about like the 6 types of working genius, I'm a doer. I'm very much like, give me a checklist. I'm gonna check shit up. Right? Like I'm out of control. My husband on the other hand, he's a thinker. He's like a big dreamer, and he just sits there and he comes up with a million different ideas, which was very attractive when I first met him 20 years ago. Little did that he didn't actually do any of them. Like he just came up with all these great. I was like, oh, that's so fun. Oh no, it was just the dream. Okay, you're on my way. I'm doing them. Let's go. And so, but imagine if it was just a whole team of just those dreamers, right? Like nothing is getting done. Great ideas are populated. All those artists coming up with amazing ideas, but nothing ever actually happens. Or it's a group of just doers, and we're just getting our checklist done, but nothing is actually being innovated, right? Nothing is being dug into and rethought or reimagined and recreated. We're just sticking with what's already been done because we can do it. And watch us check on this stuff. We're going. Look what I did. 200 things done today. I'm amazing. I feel great. Right? So you want to ensure that you're finding how your teams work, no matter what the generation is, right? Ensuring that you have a good mix of different kinds of people on your teams. And one of the ways that we do that at Christensen is through those personality assessments. Do you remember, you find your spot?
I think I just was overthinking it.
Okay.
I think I missed something. Okay.
We're good. Okay, let's talk about engagement and retention. So we've talked quite a bit about it already, but let's talk about what are some ways that we can not just hire and not just create those great teams, but then keep them here. How do we ensure that they don't leave as soon as they found another job that pays them $5 more, right? Like, because that happens, especially in our nonprofit world, because nonprofits are so hard to keep because we can hardly pay them. So how do we keep them from jumping ship? They got their year of experience and then they're off doing something else. So one of the ways that we can do that is ensure that we're not doing a one size fits all, right? That we are really identifying what is driving and motivating that person. We talked quite a bit about that already. When I asked, what would you do? What would keep you if it weren't for the money, right? We talked about purpose. We talked about core values. And so how do we find out what those are to ensure that we are activating those for our employees, right? So It's all about the relationships, baby. You got to dig in. You have to, if you're an older person, you're uncomfortable having a relationship with a younger person or vice versa. I was first an elementary school principal at 29. How about awkward when you're managing somebody who's 65 and about to retire? How do you understand that person? How do you break down those barriers, those age gap barriers, and have those meaningful conversations? It's hard work. Is what it is. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes a lot of coffee. Hello, friend. Please be my friend. That's right. It takes a lot of work. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and you got to invest the time. So if it's really meaningful, you have to invest the time into it. If you see the value, and of course, there's value, right? You got to invest the time. Another big thing, a huge thing at Christensen is internal promotion, internal movement. Over 30% of our current employees have been promoted. Right? So we have a strong belief of internal promotion. We love to hire good people and then move them up within the company. And that's part of the reason why we have such a long-term retention, because people love the fact that they're not just stuck where they are. They're going to be able to grow. They're going to be educated. They're going to be provided that professional development, and they're going to be promoted and grown continually up and throughout the company, which is phenomenal. Already talked about Hannah. Marcy Ballard, who's very popular. Everybody knows Marcy. She's very here within the community. She's worked at Christensen for 12 years. She's had 5 different roles in 12 years. She started off as a salesperson, and now she's the head of our corporate development department. So she is moved on up. My good friend Jeremy Ball, he started off as a driver at the company, and now he's our fleet manager. So he has moved up over the last 10 years and just been slowly promoted, been educated and promoted and moved up. And that's what people want, right? They want that promotional growth. They want not just promotional growth, but internal and professional growth. So retention, not just a one-size-fits-all. Employees from different generations, different motivators. It takes time and energy to identify what those motivators are, not just generationally, but also individually, because we all have our own different motivators. And so at the end of the day, it takes that time and that energy. And oftentimes it takes money too, because people want to, like, they're going to need external trainings. Somebody's going to have to put together that professional development or that manager training. It's not easy, but the most expensive part of employing is losing someone, having to retrain, not just because you've lost all that knowledge, right? That knowledge is gone. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is you have to train somebody from scratch. It takes a year, 9 months, a year to get them back up to where that previous person was. It's a whole year lost. So, okay. So let's talk about, we've talked a lot about intergenerational employment, hiring strategies, retention. Last but not least, why you should embrace it. If you aren't convinced now, we will convince you. Okay, so take companies like Google and IBM. They actively bring together cross-generational teams because they know that by blending the different perspectives, it creates a healthy, brilliant team. And that's what we should be doing.
You also have to think about who your customers and who you want your customer base to be. People shop where they're comfortable. And so you can kind of determine your own customer base. If you aren't bringing in multi-generational teams, are your customers going to relate to you? And are you going to have the best information for the demographic that you're going after if you're not really bringing in the diversity of multi-generational teams?
As Carly spoke about earlier, right? Retention and that knowledge transfer. How do we transfer that knowledge from the old guard to the new? It's all about creating that mentorship and that coaching between the old and the new. And so that way we reduce down on that cost of turnover. We transfer that knowledge onto the next generation. So really, when we invest in a multi-generational workforce, we create mentorship and career paths that encourage people to stay rather than leave for the next best thing, which is heartbreaking, but we see it all the time. So let's try to stop that. Okay. Final thoughts. So today's presentation isn't just about age. It's about making your workplace better for everyone, right? It isn't just about making it better for us millennials that are dominating the space today. It is about making it best for everyone. So it's a cohesive, healthy team. When we stop seeing generational differences as obstacles and start seeing them as strengths, that's when we really create progress. That's when we see progress happen.
So what can you take away from today and, take action with when you leave? Maybe it's shifting the way you recognize employees from different age groups, or maybe it's something as simple as starting a conversation with someone outside of your usual generational bubble. How do you apply today and make it worth it for you?
Thank you very much. If anybody in the room has a question, if not, we've got some more online people. So let's do this one. How can organizations foster mutual respect and collaboration between employees with different generational perspectives? Things like sharing ideas, enjoying each other, and even downtime. Like, how do you bring them together to that respect and actually maybe like each other?
So the question, to be repeated, how do you bring teams together and make them like each other?
Yeah, with respect among the generations. Respect, goes all the way across the generational divide. So it's not like they just tolerate each other, but they respect each other and maybe like to hang out and share ideas and collaborate.
So in my organization, we do that through meetings, trainings. If we're going to do a training, we're going to invite a diverse group and we're going to bring them in together. We force collaboration a little bit by, bringing people in from different areas of the store that may have different experience, different expertise. And we partner them together on projects. We help them get to know each other and to find the value in supporting each other.
Here's another good one. What are some of the most common generational conflicts? You guys have talked about all the ways you guys do work together, but what are some of those conflicts and how do you solve those? Okay. One of the biggest conflicts I've seen is trying to not it's hard not to name names and point fingers. They're like tone. Tone is a huge issue. So we have, especially older women, oftentimes can have a very B tone. And where and a younger generation might feel very offended by that, or why are they being so rude? Why is that person so rude all the time? I literally just asked where the pencils were, where the paper clips were, and she was so rude to me. Her tone was just like I was an idiot. And so this is one of but once again, it comes back down to a lack of relationship, because the person who is asking for the pencils and the paper clips does not have a relationship with the woman with the tone. She doesn't understand that the woman with the tone is having a very bad day today and is, didn't have her second cup of coffee and is dealing with 15 different things over here and didn't have any pleasantries. And this person with the tone is an older woman who really likes pleasantries, right? And likes to be, good morning, how are you? How's your kids? Wants to have that relationship. And when she doesn't have those relationships, then the tone happens, right? It's all about understanding the people that you work with. It's about breaking down those walls and having those relationships. Takes time. Right.
Yes, so my question would be, do you have any tips and tricks for individuals that are trying to work with the other generations? So for my instance, it would be trying to get a boomer to adapt to new ideas when a trait of a boomer is to dig in their heels on what's always worked. And so in an ever-changing environment and workplace, for as a younger generation coming in, we're trying to say hey, the target has now moved and the box that you used to operate in is no longer there, but they're so they're very, feet in the mud about, well, it's always worked, do this. Do you have any tips and tricks on how to communicate effectively with boomers
I think that there's some transitions happening. They're going to force change, right? Technology's changing, the way we work is changing, the tools we use change. Do they want to be obsolete? Right? That's one thing that we talk about a lot, maintaining relevancy. The world is changing whether we want it to or not. So do we become part of it, or do we kind of disappear with the old ways?
Yeah.
So really talking about, okay, is there a specific tool that they use on a regular basis that is no longer going to be available to them? Is there a process that's changing that has become more efficient, that if they don't get on board, someone is going to pass them by? We all at some point have to make a choice, like, are we gonna get on the change train or not? How do we bring those employees with us in a way that's positive for them? How do we help them see that by digging in, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting the business? And help them see through to the positive side of it. Sometimes coordinating them with someone that is, you know, not quite a full generation ahead, but somewhere in the transition mode that is easier to adapt to change can help as well.
So a follow-up in that would be, would you see advantage, disadvantage, or just how tactful you are in doing it to perhaps approaching somebody who is of closer to that generational gap, but not within a department? Because oftentimes you may work within your department and you have a lead in your department. And if you could possibly relate to somebody else in a different department, they could talk at their week. Because what ends up happening, I think, is if the boomer, let's say, holds a position of hierarchy, and then you try to approach from a millennial perspective, it's very, well, you're not on the level that we are right now. So we're not only digging in, but you also don't have the authority to tell me or ask me to do what you're asking.
I think when you're leading up, it's always important to like take it from a position of mutual respect. So if you have like someone that's already trusted by that leader, that you can help transition that information in a way that's already coming from a trusted source, it is going to help. Versus you already being in the change, right? You're already there, you're excited about it, and you're trying to drag someone with you. Having that conversation come from someone that's already got a relationship built with that's already transitioning with you might help.
Would you have a goal and focus on that and have everybody at the round table? And so that it takes that away so that, I mean, first, can everybody agree what is our ultimate goal? And then there's different ways to get there. Let's talk through it so that there's not, so it's a round table. It's not one person.
I do see that, but oftentimes you don't have a seat at the table. And so if you don't have a seat at the table, it's hard to get your idea in there unless you can get somebody to agree or to at least see your perspective, who values your input.
So I have used the tactic of approaching a conversation point from someone on that my boss's team, right? To help bridge that information, get it out there a little bit so that when it comes up, it's already been spoken about and there's already like a softer tone to that conversation. That is a technique that works.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Try sending in Facebook videos.
Kind of, we talked a lot today about like kind of broad general within the generalizations and kind of obviously we're about talking about generational gaps, but when we're talking with conflict management, a lot of the times finding common things can help bring everybody to the table. So is there maybe something within generations or generationally between the large workforce that we actually find that are more common that can help, you know, bridge those gaps and stuff? Like what commonalities do you see between the generations?
I think that everything overlaps. I mean, to say that there's a line between this that like doesn't, like everything blurs. It really does. So it's really about getting to know the team that you're on. Getting to know the people you're bringing in to be able to bridge that. Because we all have things that overlap into each of these generations if we really think about some of the stereotypes that go along with them. I require long hours, what I do, like the input in the hours. But I also would prefer a text versus a lengthy meeting.
Common ground though, like humanity common ground is the same no matter, I mean, kids and pets, man. Kids and pets are always an entry door into everybody, no matter the age, no matter the generation. Oh, do you have a dog? Oh my God, tell me about your dog. Show me a picture. Oh, do you have kids, grandkids? Like it's universal, no matter the gender or the generation. It's funny. But thinking about like technology, right? Like technology has always been there. Like my dad is in his 70s and he was like creating like using punch card computers like back in the day when he went to UC Davis. And so like you start talking about like tell me about how technology has changed, right? Like if you're talking about a tech change, right? Like if you're going like talk about how technology has changed. Like, let's talk about how it's ever changing, how it's growing faster, and like, what are the latest things? I'm just so excited. Let's talk about AI. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Right. And so like there are those commonalities. It's generation after generation, it's the same thing happening just now, right? It's just the next version of it. And so identifying what is the latest version and what are the commonalities that are woven between them.
Another online question, similar to the question about boomers, what are some tips for giving feedback to the generations that feel no news is good news? Feedback is vital to growth, yet we don't want them to feel that every time you ask to meet with them, they think they're being called into the principal's office. We've all been there and done that, right? We've all felt that. So what are some tips of how to manage that?
Frequency and consistency, like they know when it's going to happen, like it's scheduled, they know it's going to happen, and it's frequent. These like they know like every quarter we're going to meet and it's at this time and this is what's going to happen, and like it's scheduled on their calendar, so it's not scary. So they know that if I'm going in to meet with my boss and it's not at that time, we're not going to be talking about my performance, and so they don't have that fear hanging over them, and it's at the same time, whether it's every month or every quarter, that it's planned and they know ahead of time. So that way they can mentally prepare and they can have their entire dialogue prepared in their head and they have all of their notes and everything to show how productive they've been. So when they're going in, they're ready to go.
Carly, do you have an answer to that?
I think the pre-notice to the conversation is important. I think that you can also handle a lot in an informal setting. And so just maybe taking the pressure off that in-office conversation, meet them where they're at, can go a long way as taking the edge off of that too.
And do you guys prepare agenda for those meetings?
Absolutely.
Yeah, to just help them know what's on there. Any other questions from the room?
I have a quick one. So I work with high school students and we're preparing them for this big student job fair that's coming up next month. How can I best help them meet their employers or the expectations? I'm always talking to them about, we just need you to be off your phone and be on time. How can I be their employer? Can you send them off their phone and being on time? But what other things can I do to help prepare our students for these kind of things?
Honestly, some role playing would be good. I have a lot of new graduates or minors that come through the building, and one of the things I struggle with the most is just developing that eye contact conversation. Right, getting them into a social interaction that isn't over the phone. Or over some type of social media. So really helping them build that like eye contact conversation. It's really uncomfortable for a lot of them. And that's kind of like step one is we're bringing them into the building. Like the customer needs to see your face, right? We need to see your face. So just that ability to look up and see someone that they're talking to is huge. Yeah.
Carly, when we were talking about it, you also mentioned like just initiating conversation with strangers. That was something, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Getting people to.
You're talking about like at the checkout, like the self-checkout, like you have like.
All the conversations.
Yeah,
we do have some tricks and techniques that we work on, trying to build that social skill because not everyone has it. So just like a handout for the cashier who's new to be able to hand to someone because it breaks the ice for them. But little techniques that you can develop to kind of teach that social interaction is really important. Piece of candy, right? No one gets mad at candy. So a new person coming in and trying exactly. But getting the younger generation to come in and just be bold about interaction. Not everyone's like that. Even some of the older generations, that helps take away the fear of interacting and learning how to say, hi, how are you today? Which is terrifying to a lot of people.
Okay, we'll do one last question. Can you share an example where reverse mentorship helped improve work and efficiency?
The reverse, do you mean younger to older, or what do you mean by that?
I think in most companies, you're thinking of the older generation is training up the new one. So kind of like to speak to Ryan's question, where there's some innovation happening, or there's something that sparked a change that proved, really beneficial for the company. Either of you have an example of that?
Nope.
Yeah.
I so I just started as a position and there is, in our other office, there is a younger guy who's like in his early 20s who has been dabbling in the position that I have now taken over. And so, I set up weekly meetings with him and I just ask him like questions all the time. And I just ask him things as if I don't really know, even though maybe I do know. You know, I could figure it out, right? Like I get on this new program, I know how to schedule things in it, I can figure it out. But it's important for me to create that relationship with him and show them that he was here before me and that his knowledge is useful to me. And so it's not always, and a lot of times it's so much faster if I just let him show me how he's been doing it before instead of trying to figure it out on my own. And so I'm kind of teaching myself to reach to other people who may have done it before. And so I'm hoping that by doing that, he understands that I respect him and he respects me. Just because I walked in here and took over a position that he'd been dabbling in does not mean that I don't respect the work he's put into the position before I took it.
Is he significantly younger? Is he like?
He's like 22,
Okay.
like a newborn baby.
Interesting. I would love to hear how it turns out because I'm two ways. One, he's like, this is amazing. I'm being mentored by this professional woman. She's like taking me under her wing. That's amazing. Or second option is, why they even hire her when I was already doing it? She has to ask me for all this help. Like,
yeah, I've definitely felt both ways about it. Because sure, I mean, he probably felt like, obviously, I don't know for sure, but when the position was created, that he would be a perfect fit for said position.
Yeah.
And then for them to say, no, we're looking outside the company.
Yeah.
It makes sense when you look at just personality types.
Sure, yeah.
It definitely makes sense, but on paper, you could see that. And so, so far, I feel like he's feeling like I'm a value to the team. But I am being cautious about that because there is a possibility that at some point I will move to a management role and he will become one of my employees. And so I'm just trying really hard to navigate that because I feel like that's just important to grow him as a human.
Yeah.
And myself as a leader.
That's fantastic. Well done. It's going to turn out great.
I meet him in person this week, so.
Oh, you have met him in person before?
Yes, I haven't even met him in
Okay.
person yet, so.
Take him for a boba.
Yeah, right, I know. You want to skip? What do we do?
I think when somebody younger can show, how they're more efficient, that really speaks to me. You know, saving the company money, being more efficient. So
This is like my primary job for my boss, by the way. I'm like, let me show you how to be more efficient. Like 100%. Like,
and the competitive side also, so at least for me, there's certain competitive nature, so I would kind of tap into that a little bit. You know, we can be more efficient, we can be more cost saving, we can beat the competition and that kind of stuff. That's.
save money. You can save money.
Quality product and stuff like that.
Sorry.
I just have one last comment, like to not judge a book by its cover, because
Yeah,
there are
absolutely.
people that will pleasantly surprise you in different groups. I'm in that weird middle of between boomer and millennial, and I love being there.
Yeah.
I remember the internet before it was the internet and
Yep.
after. And I get to see that stark difference, I think, more than most generations. And I'm gonna put Mrs. Arneson on the spot. Jim's my boss, Jim Arneson, and he pleasantly surprise me. He will get on a personal level and we can talk about movies or things that we're into. So to not just assume that a boomer is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank our speakers today. I think great conversation, great insights, great takeaways. I think we all learned something, and I think, you know, there's this wide age range in all of our organizations. So this is a critical topic. Again, we want to thank STCU as our sponsor. And if you want to come on up, we'll do we have two fantastic baskets. We've got the winter one from Elizabeth, and a spring one from Carly. And so we'll draw the business cards and hand those out. Do you want to? Ready. Well, let's, okay, first one is Megan, is it Tarks?
Sharks.
Really?
Oh, I'll take the winter one.
Okay, there we go. We have number one. Yeah. And then winner number two.
From STCU.
Okay, and the next one is Cynthia McFarland from Trot. The audience, we appreciate you all coming, both those on our line. We will email out this information and send a link to our YouTube so you can watch this or share this. I have a feeling this is going to be a very well watched and shared subject matter. I think a lot of organizations can do a lot of takeaways. Our March topic, which we're real excited about, is going to be the culture code, best practices for crafting an outstanding workplace. And the speakers, we'll have 3 speakers, and they're all winners of the Tri-City Area Journal of Business, Best Places to Work. So that will be coming out within the next week, the advertising and registration for that. And I think you will be excited for who we get to come there. There are handouts. If you didn't get one when you came in, please feel free to pick one up. And also there's a survey form. If you can please fill that out at the end, we really appreciate that. It gives us good feedback about things that we can make changes, and also call for topics and speakers. So without any other questions, thank you so much all for attending today, and we'll see you next month on March 18th for our Ask the Experts. Have a great day.